NPS Now. With us today is Dr. Kurt T. Houston Sr., Senior Pastor of Gethsemane Community Fellowship Baptist Church and also Norfolk Public Schools School Board Chair. Welcome, Dr. Houston, to NPS Now.
Thank you, Karen. I'm glad to be here.
Great to have you. I just mentioned you have two titles which I know keep you very busy.
Yes.
So how do you balance being the school board chair and a senior pastor and your other hats as well?
Well, very carefully. As a matter of fact, I spend most of my days prioritizing and reprioritizing, but planning is the big key, getting a firm grip and understanding on what's required in all of the different roles, and trying my best to plan ahead and be faithful and diligent in all of my responsibilities.
So how long have you been on the school board?
I started my 5th year this past July.
Okay.
And so this is my the first year of my 3rd term.
First year of your 3rd term. And how long have you been chair?
3 years now.
Wow.
Actually, this is my 4th year serving as chair.
So other people on the board, they're doctors, they're clergy, they're retired,
Yes.
yet active, former
Sure.
superintendents. They all had jobs, they all worked. How do you think they balance doing this position?
Well, I think for all of us coming onto the school board the first year, we are all in for a big surprise, and no one can really adequately prepare you for the work. And I don't think any of us really had a good, clear understanding of the time demand that this job places upon your life. And so it's sort of a, if I can use the term, kind of a rude awakening the first few months on the board, when you really get a feel for the number of meetings, responsibilities, and obligations that is required in this work.
Share with us what some of that work is about.
Well, of course, the school board is a body of citizens that are either elected by the populace or, in our case in Norfolk, appointed by the mayor and city council to provide governance and oversight of the public school district. Along with the superintendent, we comprise what is called the governance team. And our responsibilities include, 1, vision casting, that is determining along with the superintendent the vision of the district, what it is we ultimately want to be and become as a school district. It also includes assessment, determining how it is we will measure and evaluate the work and the success of the district. Of great importance is setting also standards, and that is what it is we want each student to know and to be able to do as a part of the Norfolk Public Schools. Of course, 2 of our priorities include all of our students meeting or exceeding standards, and all of our schools being accredited. So those are just some of the standards that we've set as a school board for achievement. Alignment of resources, making sure that our human resources and our financial resources are all in alignment with the vision and the standards that we set as a district. The work also includes continuous improvement and collaboration, collaborating with both internal and external stakeholders to see how we bring all of the stakeholders together: business community, parents, faith-based institutions of higher learning, as well as our internal stakeholders together in order to accomplish the mission and the vision of the district.
So this is a multifaceted approach that you're all coming with. If you had to winnow down or narrow down some of this information,
Sure.
What would be your main focus of the school board?
The main focus would be working along with the superintendent as the governance team to provide oversight, management, and monitoring to accomplish the district's goals.
So what is the school board's goal in encouraging the community to be more involved with the school board and in our schools?
Well, we're always trying to get the message out that it requires more than just the superintendent and the administration and teachers and all of those who make up the NPS staff to get the job done in educating our children. It really requires the participation and the support of the entire community. And so parents are the first educators of the children, and so parents preparing the children, supporting their work as students, as well as reinforcing what the district the teachers, the school system seeks to teach, and the education that we seek to provide. Of course, the business community providing support through our Education Foundation, monetary support, as well as mentoring and other types of coming alongside of the district in order to provide whatever resources they bring to bear to help in this effort. So as we prepare, Norfolk's future and our children, it really requires the support and the participation of all of our stakeholders.
As serving as school board chair, what's your favorite part? I mean, what brings you the most joy in this position?
Well, I mean, I really enjoy working along with my colleagues and along with the superintendent in planning, providing leadership and planning the agenda and really monitoring the work of the school board to make sure that we are achieving our goals and that we are growing and developing together as a governance team. And so that board development work, I would probably say, is my favorite. I am very passionate about leadership and about leadership development. And a big part of what we do that determines our success as a board is board development, identifying those attributes and characteristics of highly successful boards and constantly working together to improve our relationships and our work so that we become a high-performing governance team.
Real quick, for someone who hasn't attended a school board meeting
Sure.
before, walk me through real quick what that particular day looks like.
Well, it's interesting that you would ask that question because we're really in the middle now of making a transition to a new model. So for a number of years, the approach would be, of course, the third Wednesday of each month. The board would come in at 4 p.m. and we would have our closed or executive session where we review personnel matters and student matters. That's typically for an hour, and then at 5 p.m., from 5 p.m. until about 6:30, we will have our informal meeting, which is typically a work session type meeting, where we are receiving reports, reviewing data, and having discussions about the most current and pressing matters of our work. And then we move from that after a short break into the formal session, which is primarily the business meeting, where we receive the superintendent's report, vote on the consent agenda items and other items that we may have agreed upon earlier in the day. In the informal session, we'll have the vote on those consent agenda items. And then we may have, during the final session, a few more reports. Now we're transitioning now to a different model, wherein on that third Wednesday, we will only have the closed session and the formal business meeting.
Okay.
But on the first Wednesday, which is typically designated for our work sessions, we will have longer meetings where we will actually do the work of the governance team.
So what time does that start?
It varies. Typically that meeting is from 4 to 6, but because we have so much going on in Norfolk right now and so many things we have to deal with and get our arms around, we start quite a number of Wednesdays at 2 p.m.
Okay, so what we want to suggest for our viewers who are watching here today, if they're interested in finding out what's happening in the school board and meetings and what have you, they can go to our website, the school board website, and see the schedule.
Absolutely.
Or contact the clerk of the board, Janelle Banks. Thank you, Dr. Houston, for sharing this valuable information. Folks got to know you up close and personal, to something personal about you. And we want you to stay tuned to NPS Now for more news and information.
Welcome back to NPS Now. I'm Steve Sutmiller, Senior Coordinator of Athletics. Today we have two special guests, Dr. Beverly Atwater from Eastern Virginia Medical School and Molly Jean Burgess from Centera Health. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the news constantly we see the topic concussion in athletics. And in Norfolk Public Schools, they occur with our athletes as well. We want to inform our audience about our concussion program today. Dr. Atwater, talk about the signs and symptoms of a concussion, what people should recognize.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for having me today. As you're aware, concussions really is a big issue today. And I think that the program that you have put together for the Norfolk Public Schools as well as Centera and EVMS is just one that is so exciting. Some of the symptoms that we look for in concussions initially would be things like headaches, nauseousness, vomiting, light sensitivity, cognitive slowing, or forgetfulness. So there are a few different kinds of level of symptoms. They could be more of physical or cognitive or even emotional level, where somehow there's some emotional changes that take place. Erratic mood and behavior could be one of the symptoms. So those would be pretty much generally what we look for.
Okay. Molly, with those signs and symptoms, our Norfolk Public School concussion policy has many facets to it. And that's the number one thing that we try to preach to our athletes, to our parents, to our coaches, and anybody and everybody that's involved in athletics. Talk a little bit about our policy and procedures on how we deal in a whole with concussions.
Well, we start off, the most important part of our program is the education piece. As far as concussions, all of our coaches are concussion education trained. They go through an online course. Our student athletes and their parents go through concussion education as well. We have parent meetings with the coaches and the teams on the whole. They watch an educational concussion video about the dangers of playing with a concussion, which encourages them to be honest about their symptoms. They're also required to sign a letter. It's somewhat of a waiver, but an informational letter that states the dangers of a concussion, how they are to report it, and the letter needs to be signed by both the parent and the student. Our concussion team is comprised of an athletic trainer at every high school. We have 4 athletic trainers at the middle school setting. We have 2 supervising athletic trainers. We work closely with our team physicians at Eastern Virginia Medical School and Centera. We also work closely with the school nurses, the school psychologists, the principals, and the athletic directors to make sure that every concussion is well documented and the students are taken care of academically as well as athletically, holding them out from play.
Okay. Neurocognitive testing is part of our program. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about what that is, and then I want to try to tie that back into Dr. Atwater about how she interprets and uses our impact scores.
Okay, so our neurocognitive testing, we use the impact program. I'm an impact trained athletic trainer, so all of our athletic trainers at the schools administer a baseline impact test, which establishes a set of scores, sort of a normal for all of our athletes. So they are tested at the beginning of their season. If they're a new athlete, they're tested their freshman year, and then every 2 years after that. So typically it's freshman year and junior year. They're also tested if they've had a previous concussion, so we keep that going throughout their duration in the high school setting. Once they have sustained a concussion, that test is really valuable to us because we retest them as they're returning to play so that we can see if neurocognitively their scores are back to baseline.
Okay, Doc, you have an athlete that comes into your office and you go through your evaluation. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about the evaluation that you do with the athlete and some of the things that you prescribe to them during the course of treatment.
Usually what happens, Steve, is when I get the call from Molly Jean or one of the other athletic supervisors, that patient gets put on my schedule, that student. And it may be a situation where I'm given already the data from the original testing that had been done, depending on what level they're at. I would review that and review what happened. We give out a form that we've put together asking for those kinds of symptoms. What happened, for example, if there had been a past medical history such that I have to be aware of, such as seizures, then I'm going to want to know that. Then I pull together all that information, and then I examine the patient with looking at things like physical signs, balance, if you will, cognitive issues such as memory, if they can recite items back to me. And once that's done, that gets put into a scoring mechanism, and I'll be able to assess with that as well as the data that's been sent to me from the impact testing to see what I need to do in terms of return the student to play versus leaving them out, re-evaluating, or making sure that the athletic trainer is aware, just follow the certain protocol that they have already in place to return. And so far what I've found is that it's a very smooth process. I'm always available to the athletic supervisor in any situation where they can call me on the spot and say, we've got a kid I need to evaluate. So.
And that's a great service to our student athletes, and we really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Molly, she mentioned working with the athlete and working with the athletic trainer. Take us through when an athlete has an episode on the sidelines.
Okay.
What does the athletic trainer do? And then talk about this return to play program protocol that she mentioned, how the athletic trainer's involved, how the physician's involved for our athletes.
Well, let's say a student athlete gets hit in a Friday night football game, comes off the field complaining of any of the symptoms Dr. Atwater was mentioning, dizziness, headache. As soon as they have that initial mechanism, the hit, if you will, and one symptom, we remove them from play. And on the sideline, our assessment is we use a SCAT form, which has been developed and adopted by the Eastern Virginia Medical School. It goes through a history of symptoms, any loss of consciousness. There's a series of questions about orientation, whether they know where they are, they know who they are, and anything like that. And then once they can clear through that, we take them through a balance assessment, a memory recall of words and numbers, association of words, months of the year, days of the week, and then we finish with coordination and balance, like I had mentioned. So our policy, once they do have that initial hit, that mechanism, and one symptom, they're removed from the game and for that entire day. So so the following day, when they report back to the athletic trainer, the SCAT is then repeated, that sideline assessment. If the athletic trainer feels that they are still symptomatic or if they're not clearing through that SCAT normally, then they would begin what we call our graduated return to play protocol, which is a 6-stage process, and that includes all of the individuals that we had discussed earlier, sometimes a physician, and then the school members as well.
Okay. Typically, an athlete has an episode, and some of the data shows that most of these concussions, 70 to 80%, will clear out within that return to play stages. So that's important to know.
It is.
But it's also important to know that these symptoms can also linger.
Absolutely.
And this return to play program is critical for the safety and well-being of the student athlete.
Yes.
So having both the physician and the athletic trainer working together for that return is important.
It really has worked out well, and you have such an incredible program with collaboration between Centera, EVMS, and the school system, public school system. It's just incredible. I think that this model needs to be replicated a little bit more in order to identify those students who are at risk and who perhaps we can identify not to return back to play if something is really glaring and we need to address it.
Okay, let's say an athlete does return to play. What are some of the situations that can occur to that athlete? And they typically aren't good things. So can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about what can happen if they do return without following the procedures?
If we don't follow procedures, Steve, what happens is when they return to play, they could still have some subtle levels of confusion or headaches. And it's important because the brain has to have some time to heal. And if not, then it could potentially cause more damaging effect later on. And we always have to be mindful of the fact that a lot of these symptoms could linger. And I think that's where your program does a really nice job at the protocols you put together and developing just to make sure we're catching those subtle kinds of things.
So one thing for the parents that we would like to get out is that this is not an injury that you kind of tough it out.
No.
You really need to
Absolutely.
communicate. You need to know
Absolutely.
those signs and symptoms because of these other conditions that can occur. And we've seen those across the country.
Yes.
So we have a lot of information. We can all obtain that information on our website. Everything about our concussion policy is there. So I would like to thank both of you for being here. It's been very good information, and I know we'll have you back because this subject and topic never goes away.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
More NPS Now after this.
Welcome back to NPS Now. With us today is Elizabeth Woodard. She's the Electronics Resource Librarian at the Norfolk Public Library. Welcome to NPS Now, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here and to talk about the great services that the Norfolk Public Library provides.
Thank you.
Tell me about some of those valuable services that the library offers to our students.
Well, the public library would like to consider themselves a partner in the education of the students here in Norfolk and with their parents as well. So we have resources in the branches. We have a youth department that will host programs and events for the children of all ages. We even have adult programs that will teach them how to use some of the resources that we have, and all kinds of events that are just fun to gather.
So what are some of the services that you provide specifically for our students to support them?
Probably one of the most important is actually provided by funds from the Library of Virginia, and it's called Literati Homework Helper. They can hook on to our site through the NPS site and log into an interactive session with a certified teacher at the other end that can help them with problems through their schoolwork. They actually pose the problem, and because these are certified teachers, they won't just give them the answer. They're going to help work through the answer with them.
So help me understand, where did the certified teachers come from?
Well, from all over the state. This is provided by the Library of Virginia, so as long as they're certified in the curriculum area that somebody would pose to them, then they can help that student in that area.
So what are some of the other resources that you provide?
We have lots and lots of databases, which are probably a bad word to most of the students that are out there. They're already going like this. But databases that are offered through their libraries, both through the school and through the public library, are valuable because they're more credible. They're educationally based, and there is a source at the end that they can cite in their projects for research. Whereas on the open free web, oftentimes you have to look through millions and millions of items or articles in order to find something that's credible or that fits that particular educational need. So all of those databases, we have website links specifically for children of school age.
Tell me about the online homework help.
Online homework help is the literati that I was alluding to earlier, that the students just log in with their first name. It's completely secure. They don't use any last name or any account number. They pose their question to a certified teacher through a chat, and then the teacher turns over the interactive whiteboard, and they will work through the problems together, depending on the skills of the student and the age of the student, with all kinds of tools for typing or scribing or putting things on graph paper if it's a math problem, and even emoticons if they can't express how happy or dissatisfied they are with their own progress.
So what grade levels are? Is it like kindergarten through 12th grade, or?
Well, it is specified for 3rd through 12th grade because it does involve the typing and reading, both in the chat and in the answering of the problems. But certainly anybody that has help from an adult could work through that process.
Now, do you have to have a library card to be a part of this
You
service?
do not have to have a library card. As I said, it's not attached to your library card account. You would just put in a first name, and that's mostly so that they can be cordial to refer to you as they help through the problem.
Wow, so how safe is this for kids?
Oh, it should be very safe because it's not tied to any account at all.
How long have you been doing this service?
At least several years. As the libraries have progressed to become more and more electronic, then sources like this come on board. We also have a connection to Khan Academy, which people may be more familiar with, which is a little bit more prescribed rather than you writing in and actually chatting with a certified teacher.
What's Khan Academy for some parents who don't know?
Yes,
I'm familiar
thank you.
with it.
Thank you. Yes, Khan Academy is specifically math right now, and you log on to the free website and you can actually hook into problems of a specific mathematical nature. So you wouldn't necessarily put the problem that you're having on the whiteboard for a solution. You would have to group it in a category of problems.
So what are the hours? Say if I'm at home and I'm working with a child on a project and I'm like, ooh, I'm stuck. Is it just for students? Is it for parents? And then what are the hours of operation?
Well, it certainly wouldn't hurt if a parent feels like they need to go in to get some help so that they can help their student. But the hours are after school. So it's 3 o'clock till 9 o'clock, Monday through Thursday, and then 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Saturdays for those that aren't out playing, but will work on their homework at that time.
Well, tell me a little bit about ebooks. I know we're getting from hard copies into ebooks now. How does that service work with the public library?
Well, we're very excited about it because we just launched our ebooks in the fall, and we do have a collection of popular ebooks for adults and children, fiction and nonfiction. But most recently, we just purchased simultaneous downloads for the entire Disney collection of 600 plus books.
Wow.
And what that means is that everybody can get on at the same time. So a teacher could use it for a classroom. Students could look at it no matter where they are at any time, or all at the same time, because it's simultaneous download.
So how are we promoting this with the school system?
Well, we're bringing it to you now and hoping
Wonderful.
that people will see it from here, but we'll also promote it on our NPL site, and we'll be going around to the librarians within NPS to try and make sure that they can promote it in their schools as well.
So each school year, when does this program kick in? Like September through June, or how does that work?
If you're talking about the ebooks, the launching of the ebooks, it's there all the time.
Well, what about for tutoring, the online
for the
homework
tutoring,
help?
it's
Yes.
during school. It's during the school season. And only after hours. So if you are interested in taking a look at it, they ask that you be earnest about actual need, because you would be tying up a certified teacher at the other end.
So tell me, do you have any data or information on how many of our students are actually using the online homework help?
It's pretty new right now, so not much data to go right now, but we're hoping that we can look into that and hoping that it will really service a huge part of the community.
And I think this is valuable information, especially for parents and for students who didn't know that the library has this online homework help. I think we used to have here in Norfolk homework hotline where they can just call in. And so this is a great resource now for students in addition to that.
Yes.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for coming on the show today and sharing with us this valuable information. And I'd like to thank you for watching NPS Now. It airs on WNPS Channel 47, or you can view us online at www.npsk12.com. Again, thank you for watching NPS Now.